Today we have someone very inspiring with us. She was a powerful stroke survivor, a world-class athlete, and a strong voice for many people in recovery. Before we jump in, could you introduce yourself to everyone watching and share a little bit about who you are?
Of course I can. I'm Megan Giglia. In England, I have three letters after my name, and it's called MBE, Megan Giglia MBE. And that is all because I won Paralympics in 2016 at Rio. So yeah, that's me. I'm a three times
Congratulations.
world champion, four times world record holder.
Megan, what part of your stroke recovery changed you the most as a person?
I think it was when I actually left hospital. When I left hospital, I actually self-discharged against the doctor's, I say permission, against the doctor's advice. So I was 2 months into recovery, nearly 3 months, and I had a massive meeting with my neurologist, my physiotherapist, my occupational therapist, all these different medical professionals that were around the table. And I remember them all making me feel like a child. And I felt little and like I was being stopped from achieving and getting better. And they're restricting me, the joys of red tape, I guess. And I said I'd had enough. And I basically left the hospital that very same day. I say I walked out the door. I did not walk. I wheeled out the door and could barely clamber into a car. So that was quite amusing. But when I got home, that's when it really hit me what had happened to me, and that actually there was a long way for me to go. I remember getting home and being by myself in this massive barn house that I had at the time, and the house was empty. I was in a corner and I was just I ended up rocking almost like being taken back to being a child and just rocking and crying and suddenly realizing all the things I couldn't do, all the things I'd taken for granted. So, like tying a shoelace, opening a tin can, a can of beans to have beans on toast, grating cheese, using your keys in the door. I couldn't do all these little things I couldn't do anymore. And I had to relearn everything. So in hospital, I was very much one of the strongest patients there in the fact that I feel like I had a really positive mindset. I was really focused on recovery, and I was one of the quickest to kind of adapt and change to my environment. But when I got home, everything suddenly was taken away from me again, and I had to start again. I was lonely. I had no real communication with the outside world. I was in the middle of nowhere effectively and didn't know where to go, who to contact. I didn't want to ask for help either. I was too proud. Yeah. And that was probably the biggest life changer for me because it suddenly made me realize all the things I'd taken for granted and had to relearn. I'd completely forgotten myself, my memory. I'd lost my memory. My physical ability was diminished to only one side of my body. I couldn't speak properly. I couldn't write. All these things I just gone, and I had to find out who I was again. And that was really hard.
What was the biggest mental shift you had to make as a world-class athlete after the stroke?
Well, to be fair, I used sport. I was always sporty before my stroke.
Okay, okay.
And I use sport to help one, my physical recovery, but also my mental well-being because it really is powerful in how it makes you feel. It changes your whole mindset. You can be on a real downer, and the moment you start trying to be active, whether it be on a bike or going for a walk in the countryside, it kind of change your whole mindset shifts and you feel like a weight lifting off of you. So for me, 6 months after my stroke, I was diagnosed with epilepsy, and
Okay.
my relationship at the time was broken down because there was one thing after the other, constantly something going wrong with me. And I got a bike. I tied my foot to the pedal. I was going to say to the handlebar then, my foot to the pedal, my hand to the handlebar, and I basically cycled 120 miles. I started around 10 a.m. in the morning, and I got there for about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning the following day. And that was at my friend's house in Cambridgeshire. And basically, when I
Mhm.
got to her house, my whole body collapsed. I have no idea how I survived. I genuinely believe it is just when you're so desperate and you're on the line, your focus changes and you go into survival mode. And that's what I was doing. I was surviving. I wasn't thriving. I was just surviving. And I knew I had to do something different. I had to make a change. So I went to my friends to recover for a few weeks and try and get my head back. in the game. It was my friend's mum that really opened my eyes and made me realize that I could achieve great things. My friend's mum, Karen, her name was, she took me out for a drink. And I say a drink, it was only like for a hot chocolate or something like that. We went for a wander
Mhm.
somewhere. And she said to me, she said, Megan, don't let people define who you are. Don't let what's happened to you make you think you can't do. I want to give you a mission. I want to give you a focus. I want you to find a sport and be the best you can be in it. And you know what? It wasn't that she had told me to find a sport and be the best I could be in it. It was the fact that she told me this knowing she was going through her own struggles. She had terminal cancer, didn't have long to live. And for me, that changed my focus. It suddenly made me realize that actually I had a second chance at life. I had the opportunity to change for the better. I had the opportunity to change. My whole life had a new supposed perspective. And I suddenly realized that this person, she was supporting me. She was smiling. She was chirpy. But yet, behind the scenes, she had her own struggles, her own battles. And it
Mhm.
wasn't long after that she passed away. But that gave me the real kick up the backside that I probably needed to open my eyes and make me realize that actually I can achieve. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, as long as I do the best I can and be the best I can be for me. That's all that matters in this moment. It was about surviving and about finding something that gave me purpose in life.
That is an incredible story. That is incredible. Wow. So, what was the most unexpected part of your recovery? Something no one prepared you for?
It was how people would respond to me, how they would react. So to me, even though I knew there was lots different about me, I didn't feel different in my head really. I was still I say a bubbly teenager. I wasn't. I was 27 when I had my brain hemorrhage, my stroke. But I felt like a child at heart. And what the hospital, the medical professionals, even the people close to you, they try and shield you and protect you from the outside world. And the thing is, that outside world is not going anywhere. It's always going to be there. And if you're not prepared for potential judgments, for people staring because suddenly I can't speak, or I'm coming across like I'm drunk because I'm slurring, and suddenly I feel like I have to explain myself to everyone. And I don't have to explain myself to anyone. And I'm at a stage where I know that, and I couldn't care less what anyone else thinks. I know who I am, and I'm happy with who I am, and I love myself. And not in a big vain way. It's because if you don't love yourself, no one else is going to love you. So you have to find yourself and you have to be happy with who you are in order to achieve and to be happy and really find that kind of comfort. So I was not prepared for the staring, the comments, the judgments, and me having to always feel like I had to back myself up or explain myself. I shouldn't have to, no one should have to answer to anyone. As long as you are being a decent human being and you're doing as much as you can to, take accountability when you do cock up or make a mess of things, and you change, and you have the ability to change. It's those choices you make. We're not always going to make the right choice, but you have to be able to see where your errors are or where something's off and be able to alter it and change. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so for me, that was it. It was about people, and even the world. It's not as ready and adapted for absolutely everyone. It's not inclusive enough. I remember the first time I went out in public. I went to a pub, and not for a drink. It was because there was like a
Mm.
family gathering,
Okay.
and there were steps into the pub. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair at the time, so one arm drive. I wasn't very strong on my left side. My right side was my strong side, and it was now my weak side. It had nothing there. Couldn't even move my fingers at the time. And I couldn't get to the toilets without everyone looking at me and thinking I was drunk. But I was refusing to be pushed there. I was refusing to use the wheelchair I couldn't get the wheelchair between chairs. And for me, it suddenly made me realize how not weak I was, but how vulnerable I could be. And that was worrying because I thought I was untouchable. I would never have thought anything like this would have happened to me. And even now, I still act like I'm untouchable. That was definitely the bit that I wasn't prepared for. But it did open my eyes and make me realize and appreciate other people and other people's struggles a lot more. I became so much more aware of, even
More
some of the,
awareness.
it really grew my awareness for other people and the potential struggles they're having behind the scenes and not to judge. And we all do it, we're human. I really try very hard not to judge people instantaneously and remember that there could be something going on behind the scenes that we really are just completely unaware of.
What do you wish more people understood about stroke and brain injury survivors?
We're all human. We're all different. We all have a different story. We're all going on our own journey. And actually, you just take us an individual, whether we've got a brain injury, whether we are an amputee, whether we suffering with cancer, whether we
Mhm.
just have mental health issues. Everyone is a human that deserves the space to be themselves. And I think it's just people just accepting you for who you are and not really trying to look too deep into it. But also, I think sometimes it's not brushing things under the carpet. Sometimes tackle what's in the room. You got a question? Don't stare at me. Ask me.
Actions are better than words, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, today, for instance, I've actually been going around with all my clothes on back to front, but so's my entire family. And I have got nothing but stares from people. And the whole point of this is because my 4-year-old girl was getting dressed back to front. So my partner said to her, said, we're going to have a back to front day. So we wore all our clothes back to front. We had breakfast for dinner for breakfast, and we changed the whole day around. And all I got was stares, but not one person had the balls to actually ask me, tell me even that my
Why?
clothes were back to front. And that's not even to do with brain injury. That's just having a wacky day.
So, like, what inspired you to start sharing your story publicly and building your cycling academy?
So when I was training to become this world athlete, which I never realised was on the agenda, to be fair, I chose cycling as a way to get better physically and for my mental health. And I didn't actually realise or dawn that I could be at the very pinnacle of my career, at the top of my game, world champion #1 in the world. It's just a very surreal, unusual situation to be in. I would never have had a chance at the Olympics. So the Paralympics was the next best thing for me. So in some ways, I turned a real negative into a positive. But when I was winning, and I was on podium. I really struggled with the limelight. I didn't like it. I just wanted to be on my bike. I wanted to ride. I wanted to feel that burst of adrenaline, that burst of energy. And I wanted to just be me and the bike and not see or hear anything else really. It was just that was me. And I really struggled with that. So what I did is that for any race that I did, I basically dedicated it to someone else that had suffered at the hands of a stroke. And I say suffered, at the time it's suffering, but you have the opportunity to remold yourself, to change, to,
There we
to
go. I love
try
that.
new things, to find something new in life to give you purpose. And for me, I wanted to help other people, whether it was stroke, whether it was, again, someone that had either suffered trauma or was a part of that trauma of the wider ripple effect. So, like family members that are trying to support someone, whether it's dementia, whether it's cancer, whether it's, amputee, limb loss, whether it is congenital or acquired injuries. I wanted to give people hope. I dedicated all my races to different people. And when I won the gold medal at Rio, which was the first gold medal of the games, it was a world record breaker. It
Oh.
was like, it was the first. And I remember when I was being interviewed by Sky TV and they said, remember, it's the first. And that's what I always clung on to. He said, that's the first. You keep that. You walk away with your head held high and you know that you did that. You've made history. And at the time, I didn't really take it in too much. But the more I thought about it, the more I realised all the good I was doing. And when you're in the games and you're racing, you're in your own little bubble. You don't know what's going on
Mhm.
around you and behind the scenes. And back home in England, so this was in Rio, I had dedicated my ride to a 10-year-old boy at the time. And he had a brain hemorrhage similar to myself, only a couple of months before I went out to Rio. And I a charity called Different Strokes, and I'd reached out to this boy's parents because it was the mum that was kind of reaching out for help because he was too young, he didn't know what was going on, he was just a young boy at the time. And I reached out to him and said, look, I'm competing, I am a fellow stroke survivor with a major brain injury, and I would like to dedicate my ride to your young boy. Would you be happy with that? And they said yes please. And when I won and I told all the press, all the media, why I did what I did and who I dedicated this ride to and made it about them rather than me, because I was like, keep me out of it, please. It went viral, and the family had news reporters going around to the house. The little boy had like his own fan gathering at school. And the thing is, it gave them hope. It gave them a chance to not focus on the negative and what they couldn't control. It allowed them to take control of their life again and actually get some good out of it, no matter what the outcome was going to be. So yeah, for me, it was about that's what kind of really motivated me, was to help make change and raise awareness. You know, you're on a platform where you can reach millions of people. So if that helps one person, then surely that's got to be better than not helping at all.
That was beautiful.
Has his own struggles, but he's doing fantastic. And every survivor or everyone that I dedicated to, I would go and meet the family, or I would send them, I would keep in contact with them, even if it was just via a video call or a message. And I'd send them down some memorabilia, effectively, like signed memorabilia. And it's just really just a way of, yeah, just reaching out and actually making them realize that life's still worth living. You just need to find something that you want to be good at. And it doesn't have to be sport. It could be writing. It could be poetry. It could be music. It could just be that actually I just like to go for a stroll in the park. That is all they need. That's all they want. Or walking dogs or jumping on a horse. It could be absolutely anything. And I believe everyone in the world has a talent, but not everybody gets the chance to access that talent and find it. Would you like to see my medals? I don't know if you even remember seeing my
Oh,
medals last time
yes.
round.
Yes. Will you please show us your medals? We'd love to see it.
I'll show you my gold medal from the Paralympics first of all. So there is, just adjust my camera ever so slightly, peeps. There we go, so you can see the medal and not my face. But that is my gold medal winning ride, sitting right there. And I don't know whether you will know or anyone else that's watching will know, but if you close your eyes, you don't need to close your eyes, but if you do, can you hear that rattling? Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, so inside each of the medals, gold, silver, and bronze, there is like little beads, and they make a different sound. So that people with a visual impairment can, if they're greedy and they've won multiple medals, they know which medal they're holding for a start. Also, it's just a way of showing how inclusive the games is, and that it's kind of like made to everyone's needs. So on the back as well, it has braille. You won't be able to see really with the light, I don't think. But there's braille there as well, so that obviously anyone with a visual impairment, they know exactly what they're holding. So yeah, and this is a one of a kind because each of them also has the event it was and yeah, when it was won. Oh, so this was from the Rio. So here we go. So that is what I received. So I actually is now King Charles, but it was Prince Charles at the time gave me this, and then I met the Queen afterwards as well.
That is beautiful.
So that was that. And then I have a multitude of other medals that obviously in the process, but my favourite medal was my very first medal I ever won. And I think it was because it suddenly made me realise that I could achieve and I had potential, and it just motivated me. So I remember going to my first World Championships, and it was actually my 30th birthday. And
Okay.
I remember coming in first and then watching my name drop down. And I came down to fourth place for my first ever world champion, racing internationally. And I remember seeing that, but suddenly feeling that drive to want to achieve more and be faster and better. And that pushed me to get to where I am now.